Daryl, I just got to ask you one question. You picked him to be your mentor? You come along. Now, you know why John had them snakes and them iguanas hanging from the walls, right? Because them drug dealers were afraid to come in here. There's always a method to John's madness. Absolutely. Our next guest, I know very little about. His name is Dale Bishop, so we'll bring him on up, and then I'll see about him after we get done and come up with something for him here. Come on up, Dale.
We're going to need that in a minute.
The snake.
Actually, I got the snake. Name was Kai, 11.5 foot long. That's another story. Yeah, if I had known that all it took to get rid of you for a couple of weeks was to roast you, we'd have fired you up long ago. Rabbi, is it kosher to roast pork? Oh well. I met John and Donna when they joined the staff of Youth for Christ, which we called Voice of Christian Youth back then, back in the mid-'60s. No, late '70s. I know where you were in the '60s, I forgot. You may not remember some of that. I worked with troubled young people, delinquent youth, and Al Coonley introduced me to John and said, I'd like you to meet John Denson. He's going to work with the Youth Guidance Division, along with you, Dale, and Rich Wood, and a number of other folks, and Al Stewart over here. And the first thoughts came into mind as, great, a role model for my delinquent kids. But we worked the streets together, legally. We took kids to camp, even went backpacking and rock climbing. I never saw you pray so much when your butt was hanging over that cliff, hanging on this skinny little rope. Well, let's just say camping may not have been one of John's first loves. However, when you work closely with someone, you do get to know them better. And it was during these days that I learned that John and I had a lot in common. As Daryl mentioned, he and I had been to his house when he was living large, and he had lots and lots of animals. And I found out that he and I have that in common. We both love animals. I like mine fricasseed or fried. However, it also didn't take long for me to realize that John had a lot in common with at least some species of animals, especially rabbits. You know how many kids he has? Did they have TV back then? I know you've been looking for the lost tribe of Israel, but I had to create them, Anyway, my mom said, don't look a gift horse in the mouth. And I remember one day my wife and I drove home. And by the way, John, you're a horse of a different color. Yeah, we come home, and sitting in the middle of our little front, we don't have a real large front yard, but in the middle of our front yard was this big cage. And Vicki said, what's that? I said, I don't know. I pulled up in the driveway. We got out of the driveway. We had a little 2-year-old son and a little year-old son. And we went over to this big cage, and there's rabbits inside this cage. She said, well, where'd these come from? I said, I don't know. I don't know. A couple of days later, we found out that John decided that our kids needed to have pet rabbits. Later on, when we finally got the python, we found out what the rabbits were for. Well, that wasn't the worst of it. A year or so later, ended up finding another box on the front porch, and inside of that box was a skunk. Now, John told me the skunk had been de-skunked, whatever that means. He's always been a giving person. What he failed to mention to me was, you can de-skunk a skunk all you want, but the odor of a skunk is in its glands, and it will still smell like a skunk, even when you de-skunk it and it can't spray you. So the neighbors had lots of fun watching me wash the skunk out in the front yard every couple of days. They had hours and hours of enjoyment and amusement watching me give the critter a bath each week. And John told me how social and fun-loving the skunk was. And I have to admit, it did cause me to wonder what kind of social life John had. Well, it was all fun and games. I watched the skunk chase my boys, and they played with the skunk, and they played tag in the front yard, and the neighbors would all watch and stuff. And it was all fun and games until the skunk turned on me and started chasing me and biting the back of my ankles. And, well, all I got to say is that, John, it's time that I return the favor. I want to give you back your skunk. And by the way, it tastes like chicken. Here's a camp bag that will take you back to the memory of back there. John, we love you. I'm glad to get rid of some of your critters. I'm glad Donna has put up with you. And please, write big checks, because Lord knows Donna does need them.
Back in the day when John was running, and him and his buddies were running, so when you and him were running out there, you know stuff, he would always say, get going, get out in front, and you turn around and John went the other way, right? Remember that? Always going the other direction. You know, John's a 4-time loser, counting juvie, 2 federal prisons, and a stint in a woman's prison, and don't ask me how he got in there. They did get him out of there, though.